Hello everybody, Maven here, and if barrier champions are present in master content or a Grandmaster Nightfall, you are going to use the Wish Ender. It's just facts. Wish Ender is by far the most broken primary weapon for endgame content. But in the past few months, Bungie has issued two massive buffs to the Revision Zero. And the Revision Zero and the Wish Ender are both kinetic anti-barrier exotic primary weapons, so they're both fighting over the same throne. But is there any reason at all to pick the Revision Zero over the Wish Ender? Well, today we're going to run some tests and figure out if there is. So let's get to it, and remember, if you enjoyed the video, I really appreciate if you hit the like button. It really helps out a ton. And let's break it down. So when it comes to the perk options for the Revision Zero, there's really only one PvE role at all, and that's Vorpal Weapon with 4th times a charm, and there's really no debating that. And as you know, the Revision Zero has two firing modes. There's the 4-burst mode and the 2-burst mode, which more or less makes it into a scout rifle essentially. So let's jump straight away into a Grandmaster ad clearing comparison. On the top left, we got the 4-burst mode. On the top right, we got the 2-burst mode. And on the bottom, obviously, the Wish Ender. We're going to clear the first wave of ads in the GM Hypernet current. And straight away, you can see that the 4-burst mode sucks. It sucks bad. It's not meant for ad clear. And this is going to sound really strange, but while it's not meant for damage, it's meant for DPS. I know that makes no sense, but we'll talk about it later. Now, the reason the 2-burst mode is so much better is because of the buffs it received several months ago. They buffed the 2-burst mode by 75% damage, a ridiculously huge buff, so that is definitely going to be the choice when it comes to ad clear. It hits really hard compared to most exotic primaries for Grandmaster ad clear, but unfortunately, it seems awful in comparison to the Wish Ender because the Wish Ender is just broken. It's capable of one-shotting trash mobs from any distance in GMs, something no other exotic primary can do. So we're just going to go ahead and eliminate the 4-burst and move up to this next section where we got to kill some ads from across the map, and here is where the Revision Zero suffers. It's not uncommon to have to kill ads from this far away in Grandmasters, and the fact that the Wish Ender just doesn't care, and on the other hand the Revision Zero takes 10 times longer, you definitely want to be using the Wish Ender. That's the main thing I dislike about pulse rifles in Grandmasters. The range fall off is atrocious. Pulse rifle archetypes have just about equal range fall off as hand cannons, but personally I feel that they should be somewhere in the middle of hand cannons and scout rifles, so around the 50-meter range. That just makes more sense in my head, but obviously PvP would suffer if they did that. Now, what about barrier champions? Because that's what we came here for. Well, I gotta give a huge apology that this video feels a little bit incomplete because we couldn't test against a Grandmaster barrier champion. The only two Grandmasters I have available to me do not have barrier champions, so there's quite literally nothing I can do about it. So the best thing I could do is test against master barrier champions, so that will have to suffice. It's basically the same thing. So the 4-burst mode can potentially one-shot the barrier if you hit all crits, otherwise it's going to be a 2-tap. And the 2-burst mode does get extremely close, but it looks like it's a nice cozy 2-tap. At least it will always happen quickly. And the Wish Ender, as you already all know, will one-shot the barrier every time, even if you hit the body, and even from all the way across the map. Now, as for melting the barrier champion, we're going to go in reverse order here, and you'll see why. So starting off with the Wish Ender, you've seen it a million times. It's reliable, it gets the job done in a reasonable amount of time, it hits extremely hard, harder than snipers. As a primary, it's pretty unfair, so it's looking like an uphill battle for the Revision Zero. Speaking of which, let's try the 2-burst mode. Remember that the 2-burst mode is better than the 4-burst mode specifically for ad clear, but not for DPS. And that's because we are relying on the sniper mode, the Hunter's Trace perk, in order to compete with the Wish Ender for damage. And in order to charge the sniper mode, you need to land crits. And when you use the 2-burst mode, you can't charge the sniper mode in nearly as fast as you can with the 4-burst. So it's really up to your preference. Would you rather do more DPS or sacrifice DPS for ad clear? So onto the 4-burst mode, and it absolutely destroys. Since we have 4th times a charm, we can proc it in just one burst, so we have a really big magazine, and we're capable of fully charging the sniper mode in a single mag. And once it's charged, it absolutely blows through a barrier champion, no problem. But you also gotta keep in mind that one, this will be tougher from further ranges, and two, it's easy against the Cabal barrier champ because he has a forgiving crit, but barrier hobgoblins and servitors definitely feel tough to land crits on. So here's a side-by-side Carl damage comparison so you can see the DPS difference as a whole. And it might be a little unfair, but I do suspend him just to make sure I land the sniper shots. But you can see that when the stars align, the Revision 0 is kinda ridiculous, but the Wish Ender is still pretty insane compared to a lot of things. Now here's that same comparison, but realistic. So I'm purposefully gonna miss 2 of the sniper crits because that's typically what's gonna happen in a hectic Grandmaster situation, especially for a scrub like me. And in that common situation, I would rather just stick with the Wish Ender, honestly, because you don't even need to land crits with the Wish Ender. 2 of the 3 arrows don't even get affected by it anyway, so you're not missing out on much if you hit the body. So safe to say things are not looking good for the Revision 0. It's worse at ad clear, range, breaking barriers, and half the time, damage. So I had to ponder about what situation in which the Revision 0 would beat out the Wish Ender. So I headed back to the crafting table to ponder the options, and it didn't look great, but I did have an idea. I paired Elemental Capacitor with Feeding Frenzy. Now hear me out. My thought process was that since the 2 burst mode shines at ad clear, maybe I could build into that strength. So if you play on Solar, Elemental Capacitor will max out your reload speed. So why do we need Feeding Frenzy? Well, according to D2 Foundry, Feeding Frenzy grants you a reload speed animation multiplier rather than only straight up reload speed. So it will further stack on top of having 100 reload speed. So with that in mind, I took it to the Hydroponics Delta to test out its ad clear capabilities, and the reload definitely felt juicy. That 2 burst mode easily tears through ads, and when you come across a major, you can just switch to the sniper mode and easily burst it down. But I should address one problem I have with the sniper mode personally. It has about 1,069,000 zoom, so from close to mid range, it's sometimes tough to control where you're shooting, but it does come in handy sometimes from long range. And at the end of this clip, when I kill the Cabal Gladiator, this is exactly the example I mean when I say the ridiculous zoom sometimes makes you miss and screws you up. So anyways, when I was moving on to the Wish Ender, I was optimistic that the Revision 0 would finally win at something, but within seconds I knew there was no hope. The Wish Ender is just broken. It just one-shots any trash mobs no problem, and it even feels like it one-shots most orange bars as well in legend level content and below. At this point, I knew the Revision 0 was just useless. Just do yourself a favor, guys, and stick with the Wish Ender. And that basically concludes the video. So do I think the Revision 0 needs a buff? No. I believe the Wish Ender needs a nerf. It's too dominant. You have to use it almost all the time in tough content. You know, when you say something like, "Hey guys, want to farm Grandmasters," that phrase kind of also means, "Hey guys, you want to go repeatedly use the same old bow we've been forced to use the entire past year?" Because that's what it has become at this point. And even before the Wish Ender got anti-barrier, we were always forced to use the Arbalest. So there's next to no build crafting at all for Grandmasters. It's like, use the Wish Ender or get out type situation. And honestly, I'm kind of tired of it. Now, shameless plug time. I did a video a couple weeks ago that was an exotic weapon tier list based on how badly they need a buff. And spoilers, the Revision 0 was not in that video because I knew it was a decent weapon and I've used it before. I just never dug this deep on a comparison with the Wish Ender, and now that I've seen that it's basically useless, I would put the Revision 0 in that video if I could go back in time. Now, if I worked at Bungie, what would I do to fix the Revision 0? Well, I would just give it Intrinsic Unstoppable instead, because there's no way it's ever going to dethrone the Wish Ender for anti-barrier, so just give it another purpose. There we go, problem solved. So that's going to do for the video. Feel free to let me know if I missed anything. If you believe the Revision 0 is better than the Wish Ender, let me know why down in the comments. I'd be curious to see. And if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate if you drop a like and a comment, because it really helps out the algorithm. The interaction like that really goes a long way. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Would love to have you here. And with that, I'll catch you in the next video. See you later.